In fact, I think Hafez even has a poem, or Rumi, where he says at some point you put the toys aside, and then, no, you're not putting them aside because anyone's telling you to. Your own soul becomes hungry to know how to align with love. And then here is the irony. It is true that love begins to bring everything on the list that matters. And the story I was going to tell you that just was really wacky was that I was, it's really quick, I was in a cafe over the weekend. It was really cold out. So I'm standing in line, and the person in front of me in the line was trying to order hot cocoa, and they were telling her that they were all out of hot cocoa, and she was really mad. She's like, I'm really cold. How can you be out? Blah, blah, blah. She kind of had a fit. She didn't want anything else, and she stormed out. And then it was my turn, and I asked for some hot cider. And they said, no, we're out of hot cider, too. It's really cold out. We're out of a lot. And so here's my basic thing in that moment is when you're aligning with the divine, my feeling is if I need it, it will come. If it's not coming, I don't need it yet. Period. So I kind of just said to the guy, it's fine. You know, I don't really want anything else. No worries. And I left. Okay. I crossed the street to go into some store that's having a sale, and I'm just curious. And I stick my head, walk into the store. At the door, there's a woman for the sale. They're like, you know, one of these holiday things. And she goes, welcome. We have hot cider today for all of our shoppers. Would you like one? And just hands me the cup. Now, I'm not telling this story like I'm special on any level. I'm telling the story that the more you live from that place of if I need it, it will come, the more the miracles. I wasn't sitting there going, let me visualize some cider. Oh, I really want it. Let me think about how much I want it. Let me imagine, you know, what it's going to taste like and how good I was like, I didn't give a shit. Now, I know it's a small thing, and it's harder to do when you really want a new car, or you really want a partner, or you really want your illness to subside. But my point is there's a reason the Sanskrit word Aparigraha exists. Because Aparigraha, and I use it a lot in Outrageous Openness, Aparigraha means non-grasping. It's when the hands open to receive. And you can try this yourself just listening to me. Open your hands. See how wildly available they are to be filled when they're open. Now, clench your fists and think inside of all the things you want and how you're the source and you're going to make them happen and you're going to go get it. Think about what can come to you from that place of the grasping. Now, I understand there are a lot of people that say, well, you know, I'm the source. I make it all happen. That's my point of power because I make it happen. And what I usually say to them, because, you know, believe me, having 2 books like this out, I get letters all the time, just from, like, not in the forum, but from just readers out there. And my experience is I've yet to meet somebody, including the writers who write all these books about go make your wishes come true. I've yet to meet somebody who's living that way, who isn't grasping. Now, I'm not meaning that some of them are lovely, wonderful people. But whenever I've gotten down to the nitty-gritty with them, the ones I've talked to, every one of them is like, yeah, I got this, but now I really want this. And I'm frustrated that, yeah, I manifested that, but I could go bigger. Because that's the nature of the ego, is it always wants more. It's never satisfied. And, I was telling that story on the other week about someone I knew who I love who has complained forever and ever and ever about not having a partner. She met this guy that she says is the right partner, and I think he may be. But the minute she met him, she started to complain about her work. She didn't even get to have that full receiving and enjoyment before the mind went to the next thing. Now, this is, to me, all how this works. If you are the manifester and you are that power, and there is no divinity running this, there's no love, then you carry the burden of manifesting it all. And you also carry the burden of fearing losing it all. That's the other piece of this too, is that anything manifested by the ego can be lost by the ego. Anything received through Aparigraha, through that open-handed receiving, is never lost. You have it as long as you need it. You know the divine is your source. And if you lose one thing, it comes another way. I mean, it really is. I always think about that story in the Bible about what is that? Where the loaves, the loaves and the the loaves and the fishes, and it's like the endless loaves. Like there was always enough food for everybody. I'm thinking, how does this work? It works because you're not depending on the ego to manifest. You're going to where the storehouse really is of divine abundance and saying, let me receive from that place. It's also so much less work. And Christiane Northrup, she's written about this so much in her book, in the Goddesses Never Age book, if you've never got to read that, about the ways you burn out your adrenals and you burn out your body from the endless burden that you're the one that has to make it all happen, through that idea that you're the source. The last thing I want to say about this, I just want to go back. I said earlier, it doesn't always work. One of the reasons it doesn't, besides if you're an old soul, you can have the experience like I did of God thinking it's hilarious that this is the focus. But beyond that, it's also because there's different karmas in every life. And this is what the secret leaves out. There's different karmas in each life. You could have a life, that's what parabdha karma is, where the soul says, I need to be without a relationship for a number of years because I've always given my power away to a partner. I've always made the partner more important than me. I've always been a codependent. And the soul says, I choose to not have a partner for a number of years to learn how to stand on my own feet. Now, if that's a choice that the soul made, that's the karma. No amount of sitting with a vision board and visualizing and focusing and pushing is going to change that karma, because the soul itself said, I want to be whole. I want to be freed from this addiction to always needing the love to be on the outside. Same thing with vast wealth. When somebody says, I choose, I will always have $1 million in the bank, I'm the source, I'm like, really? Because your soul may have decided it needs to know how to feel wealthy no matter how much money it has. Your soul may have decided it'll always have enough but not vast wealth, until you trust that you'll always have enough. So you could write checks for $1 million until your brain fell out, those fake checks that everyone was doing. And they don't work if your soul had something else to learn. So, I'm so glad the letter came. I do think you hit the nail on the head. The New Age books can really confuse you on this topic. If you relate to them and that's where your soul is really at, then that's great. And just go do it. Go focus that way. But I do think it'll really confuse you tremendously to try to do both. I'm not saying you can't, but it will confuse you, because the act of learning to offer to the divine and open to the abundance of the highest plan is extremely different than saying, I'm the ruler, I'm the doer, I make it all happen. They are as opposite as day and night.